From breaking the world record right next to the current world record holder, to breaking the world record that stands for nearly 5 years, these are the greatest moments in cubing history. For the first moment, we have Timon Koleshinsky's iconic 4.86 world record average, set in July of 2022. For some background on this record, the sub-5 barrier had been close to being broken for almost 9 months at that point, with only 2 people really being capable of doing it, with those 2 people being Max Park and, of course, Timon Koleshinsky. And they had been going back and forth, taking each other's records, with the current record being by Max, with an average of 5.08 seconds. So to put it in short, when someone did finally break the sub-5 barrier, it was going to be legendary. But I don't think anyone could have expected quite like what happened at Cube for Fun in Warsaw 2022. The average starts off and immediately Timon gets a 4.02 second single. And then in the solve right after that, he gets a 4.68, with the solve being counting. But then on the very next solve, he gets a 5.3. A pretty good solve, but not anything crazy. He just needs a 4.97 second solve or better to secure a sub-5 average. And well, he does it, getting a 4.51, securing him a 4.84 average. And on his last solve, he gets a 5.5, which doesn't really matter. But then, he gets the news that his 4th solve, the solve that guarantees him the world record, no longer counts, because it was a misscramble. So he will have to do that solve again. All eyes are on Timon. The stakes could not be higher. And then... that solve right there gave him the world's first sub-5 average. But for the next moment, we have to go back to 2016, during the absolute domination of Felix Zemdegs. Although at this time he did hold the world record average, he didn't hold the world record single. That title was held by Mats Volk with a time of 4.74 seconds. Stand! Which had only been standing for about a month at that point, so nobody was really expecting for the world record to be broken anytime soon. But then, on December 11th, 2016, Felix and Mats, coincidentally, were at the exact same competition, which was called Pops Open 2016. Now Mats lives in the Netherlands, compared to Felix, who lives in Australia, the location the competition was taking place. So it was already pretty rare for them to both be there. But then, in the finals of that competition, they were coincidentally again in the same group. So they were both solving at the exact same time. And then, even more coincidentally, on the very last 3x3 solve of that entire competition, they both get seated right next to each other. They both say hello, and then this happens. Felix just beat Mats Volk's record by a measly 1/100th of a second, while sitting right next to him. But what if you broke a world record, but this time, it stood for over half a decade? Well, that's what happened on November 24th, 2018, when Yu Shengdu, a random cuber from China that at that point, before the record, had only been seen getting 7 to 8 second averages in competition. But that all changed with this solve right here. It seemed fake. It didn't feel real. The first sub-4 second Rubik's Cube solve, done by a person who averages no less than 8 seconds, and only 6 months after Felix Zemdegs' iconic 4.22 second record. And not only that, but beating it by a whole 3/4 of a second, and breaking the sub-4 barrier by over half a second. What's even stranger though, is that there was no evidence to prove that this solve was fake. He got the exact same scramble as everyone else did in the competition, he performed the solve under competition rules, and he didn't do anything that could count as cheating. It was just too good to be true, and yet, it was. But that's not the craziest part about this record. But to explain that, I'm just gonna have to show you. This is a graph of how long it took to break each of the 3 world records before Yu Xingdu's world record of 3.47. And this is how long it took to break Yu Shengdu's world record. It took over 7 times as much time to break this one world record than it did to break all of the previous world records I just mentioned combined. And pretty please subscribe.